Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. I'd like to put something forward to the people in Ireland. And for the people that have voted, all the different generations that have voted for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and the Greens and all the other parties, I'm going to ask you today, is your children and grandchildren for sale? Because this is what this budget is, that you're trying to buy the votes of the people that have voted for you for decades. And I'm going to break it down for the people of Ireland that have voted for you for years and ask them again, why are they going to sell out their children and their grandchildren? And we'll just go by one, the fuel costs. You're after raising the fuel costs by carbon tax. What does that mean to people in Ireland? On one side, you're giving them an increase, and I welcome all the increases you're given. But at the other side, I want to see the other side, that they can withstand the increases so they don't have to raise their prices. So we'll just go to transport. Everything that comes here, everything that goes to every household in Ireland is transport. And you put up a carbon tax for every person that has a vehicle in this country. That's what you've done. That is the haulage. That is the person who goes out and work and has to drive to work because there's no transport network. That's the taxi services. That's the private bus operators. You have just taxed every single one across the country in carbon tax. You've already have taken 50% of fuel costs in taxes, and you've gone past that now in taxes. What does that affect then when we come on to raising the minimum wage, which I welcome. As an employer myself, I welcome it. But on the other side, you've got to look at the people that have to sustain the increases. And how are they going to sustain the increases when in the hospitality sector? When we asked you to reduce the VAT rate from 13.5% to 9%, which you brought them up here all last week and the week before and said you were going to do something for them, they now know that there's two standards to government. We'll bring you up hoping for the best, but we'll send you home. So that 13.5% VAT rate means now the hospitality sector and all the small cafes, the small restaurants, all that are putting people through colleges and helping them to go through colleges, you have now given them an increase in the wage, and as I said, I welcomed it. But you gave them nothing to sustain it. So what have they got to do? They've got to put up the cost of people coming into their restaurant to eat. They put up the price of a cup of coffee. The last time you done it, it was 70 cents on a cup of coffee, when you raised it from 9% to 13.5%. 70 cents on a cup of coffee, €4 on a plate of food, and now you're after doing it again. So not only are you after crippling the businesses that are trying to employ people in this country, but you're now putting them out of business. 615 businesses went out of business last year. I want to ask every one of you when you're visiting Limerick or Galway, you go around to the people in the hospitality sector and you ask them, are they happy with you? They're not going to be happy with you. You've come up here for decades doing the same thing, but you've destroyed the people that actually build communities, villages. Now we go back to the infrastructure, and you're talking about infrastructure, but your infrastructure is only built in populated areas. Now, Minister Donald, you're there, you go around Limerick. 40 years, they're waiting for an upgrade in the sewer system in Enniskeaton. 2/3 of Limerick, including Oola, Kilfinnan, Drumculloher. I'll go through all of them if you like, and their sewerage systems are defunct. For decades, you've been saying that you're going to put money in for infrastructure. Now you talk about infrastructure today through Uisce. I got an email back today and I asked the Uisce last month for a breakdown on funding that was put into Croom, County Limerick, where €5 million has been spent in upgrading a water pipe to Croom for the surrounding areas. And now they're bringing truckloads of water in for the last month, putting it into the pipes to keep water in the pipes at a cost of €200,000. That's what it's cost. So Uisce are leaking at the seams and you keep pumping money into them and they're not value for money. You then look at the sports capital grants, again, which I welcome. But every sports capital grant are done by volunteers, putting the paperwork together. They send up here looking for the funding, but everything that they do in their criteria is value for money. Why? Because they have to meet the criteria of government. But if the government do any infrastructure, such as a bike shed, 336,000, 1.2 or 1.4 million for a security hut, you go over budget. On every single thing. The Children's Hospital, there's no accountability in any person in government. That's a problem. We now go to the health sector. And again, I welcome all the increases that came in the health sector for the carers. But they asked you to put away with the means test. And again, you failed them. But what did you do on the other side? For carers that have to travel around the country, you decided, listen, I'm going to give you an increase here, but I'm going to take it back off you in carbon tax. I'm going to take it back off in your day-to-day living, buying your groceries, on the tax that the trucks have to bring the food to your shops, on you driving to work, on you collecting your children. Tax, tax, tax. That's what you've done. You've taken it off the poor and you're giving it to the rich. You've done it the other way around, which you should be protecting the people. You have no concept of what can be built in a community. You have no concept what a community can deliver, and you have no accountability. We now go to the health service again, and you look at the hospital service, okay, and you look at UHL. 5 years I was here giving out about UHL. You now create an investigation into 6 people in UHL. 56 million has been wasted in legal fees fighting cases when you should have just put up your hands, listen, there's something wrong, we've got to fix it. 5 years, Aoife Johnson has passed away, God rest her soul. Jessica Sheedy in Limerick is waiting 6 years for an investigation. 6 years when somebody's been paid fully while the investigation is going on and you haven't brought it up. And every time they look at something, it's been delayed. No accountability. And I listened to the 2 ministers today giving out their finance bill. And they mentioned farming. And then they mentioned carbon tax. And then the same people that are trying to help us with carbon, the foresters in this country, what do you do, the Ash Diebeck? You throw them to the wolves. Ryan wants to let the wolves run around the countryside. And Ash Diebeck people that have been failed by ye over trees that were brought in here under year remit, same government, same people, have been thrown out and offered them a measly 2,000 an acre to get rid of the forestry that they have and replant it after 30 years. That's what you've done to the people that are trying even to protect this planet. You've screwed them over on taxes. So my thing today is the people that have voted for you for decades, are their children and their grandchildren for sale for the sake of a couple of euros in a budget?
Thank you, Deputy.
Made by civil servants for civil servants.